thanks for being a part of this and choosing to spend your Sunday with us today. I don't take that lightly because there's plenty of other places that you could be. So thank you for being a part of this. But as we go through life, I look over my life and I look back, I look back when I was younger. It didn't seem like we had this many different choices that we can kind of move and do. And as I look now, man, we have 100 different restaurants. We have 100 different, sports that you can, a bunch of different sports you can play, a bunch of different teams you can join. And sometimes it gets kind of hard to pick and choose what you should be doing or how you should be moving. And one of the worst things about that is that when you're not, I guess, foundational in what you're doing, it's hard to make good choices and decisions. Just let your kids start picking where you're going to eat and what y'all are going to do. Doesn't look good. So, man, when you're not rooted and grounded in a certain spot, you can be messed up with all these choices. See, these choices can mess you up that we can have. And so, man, when I look at life too, it's getting very crowded out there. See, I was looking at sports. I say, man, when I look at these sports now, it's you have 100 soccer teams, so it's going to be very hard to become a soccer player. Then we have AAU basketball, man. It's 1,000 people out there. I remember my daughter was playing volleyball. What was it, at least 50 to 100 teams at these tournaments that we used to go to. Back when I was a kid, it was about 5 or 6 people at the tournament, and you could actually win. But now, when you have certain things, you can get lost in the crowd of these things. So, but one of the things that I found very interesting, and we can say it's not a lot of mega churches out there. We'll say that first and foremost, that it's not a lot of mega churches that we see. And so one of the things is that church is not going to be crowded. That's going to be one of the things that won't be crowded. And I was thinking about Joel Osteen's church. I was using his church because he has Lakewood Church down there in Houston, Texas. And based on his church, they say he has 45,000 members that comes to his church every Sunday. Once per week, 45,000 members per week. And I think that's including Sundays and Wednesdays. But when you look at Houston, Texas, that's still only about 2% of the population. So it's still a very small number that he has based on the demographics of people. So it's still not very crowded. So that means that something else is crowded and it's not church. So this is what I'm going to ask you guys today. Pick. And when you look at this right here, this little path right here, which one looks good to you? And really, the truth path of God doesn't even look like this. It would almost be a very wide road on one of those sides and a very small road on the other. But that's an interesting decision. So this is me. And just as I walk my life out, I would actually pick the cloudy side. You know why? Because once I go through the storm, I'll come out better on the other side. See, if you pick the bright, sunshiny path, it's going to be some rainy days up ahead. That's just the way I see it. So I say, man, I want to go on and get the hard stuff out the way first so I can enjoy the back end of it. That's just me. But everybody else, you can go the other way. It's fine. But that's just what this path, and that's what I would pick. But that's just me personally. But as we look, we're going to go over Matthew, the 7th chapter, and the 13th and 14th verse here. And hopefully you guys can see what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying also. And this is what it says. Enter through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But verse 14 says, but small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only few find it. See, the scripture used to be very scary and very puzzling to me. Well, I shouldn't say very puzzling, but I guess it was very disheartening. Because if we look at life and the way this goes, man, we think that everyone is going on in. We think it, man, because we say, man, well, look, they gave her their time, their talents, and their efforts, so they're going to make it on in here. But when we look at that part of the 14th at the very end, only few find it. So that kind of hurt my heart a little bit to hear that only a few people go this route and make it this way. And as Jesus was teaching, he was showing that there were different type of grounds that the word falls on. And it ended up being 4 different types of soil that this falls on. So one of the ministers of the gospel that I kind of talked from and gleaned from, he said, Jesse, when you really look at what he's saying there, he's saying as hard as we want to and much as we do, he said usually only 25% of people get it. Just think about it. Because if you ever knew this, they said about 10% of people do 90% of the work in church. So that just shows that most people are there to receive from God, which is good, but you become great when you start and become willing to serve. See, I told you guys before, the only reason why I'm great is because I'm willing to serve. So when you get to the spot where you're willing to serve, that's when you become great. That's just the way the kingdom works. It's flipped around, because one of the things that life does, it usually tells us, man, go in there and tell them to serve you. Show them how great you are, and all this stuff, and make them treat you right when you go into this restaurant. Once I progress up the ladder of my job, now I got these employees, man, y'all work for me. Do what I say. Man, you should have my coffee in here. If you want me to look at you for a raise, bring my coffee up in there. That's the way we start to think. See, but that's the way the broad path works. That's not the way the narrow path works. The narrow path usually looks at what God is speaking and what he is saying about you, how you're supposed to treat your brothers and sisters. Okay? So just keep that in mind. But when I think about the wide path, I just usually think how hard it is to maneuver and to operate on that path, because everybody's in your way. Y'all ever heard that saying? You say, man, stick to your lane because it's not crowded. Once you get in your lane, it's not crowded, because people aren't willing to really do what you're going to do if you're going to be great in the kingdom. See, I always told my kids, I say, hey, I'm about to give y'all the secret to greatness. No, that's a secret. It's a secret for anybody. Just do a little bit more. That's a secret of greatness. Look at these youth now, man. These youth think you owe them something now. When they get on the job, they think they should be making all this money and getting all these great things, and like, you owe me this. But no, if you just do a little bit more, you'll be great in this life. Just do a little bit more. Say, hey, man, can I get that for you? What you need help with today? I need to work a little overtime, or, what you need help with? So, oh, man, this dude's willing to work. She's willing to work. Man, let's go on and let's see what we can do for them. Let's make this happen. But see, that's the narrow path that you end up getting on it. And so with the things of God, man, we have to become and get very narrow in our walk with God if we're going to walk this the right way. It can't be broad in what we do. It makes it too easy. See, broad doesn't require discipline in what you do. Narrow is going to require a certain discipline in your life. All right? But let's see. Okay, that's what I want to give y'all too. So let me talk about the narrow path, because I did do the wide one first. But when I think about the narrow path also, and the Lord gave me this. He actually gave me this morning, because I didn't really think about this when I was kind of thinking of doing this and putting this together. But one of the things about the narrow path is that you usually have to be a lot more strategic in what you do, because it's not a lot of room to operate. So you don't have a lot of room for, see, if you're operating on a narrow cliff and you see a stick on the path up there, you start to kind of, okay, how am I going to navigate this? Because this might not turn out well. If I don't hit this right, I'll be off the cliff. See, the narrow path puts you in a think mode a little more, man. Like, oh, okay, let me think about this. Let me ponder this just a little bit. But when the Lord was giving me this, I was thinking about, about the narrow path also, is that the Lord said, man, remember when you used to pick basketball teams? I said, yeah. I said, okay. So when I used to pick a basketball team, this is what I would do. It didn't matter who my friend was. It didn't matter. I'm picking the dude that's going to help me win. Just think about that. See, friendship goes out the window. So, man, my feelings are out of this right now. My feelings are out of this. My boy going to understand. If he don't understand, I'll make him understand later. You play on that other team, you're going to understand real quick. But when you're doing that, man, when you're really on this narrow path and you're trying to put something together, you're going to pick the best person for the job. See, I wasn't worried about his feelings. I say, man, look, he'll be all right. But this person will help me win. That person's going to help me win. And now my feelings are out of the way. But see, nowadays, when we're walking this, we base it on, man, all right, well, I don't really feel that. I didn't really like what they said. Or, he didn't say that nicely to me. Man, okay, well. I remember my kids, you tell me, Dad gets mad. Dad gets mad. He does this, he does that. But man, now I look at my kids, they're very successful in what they do. I don't have to get mad no more. See, I told my wife one time, I said, man, I think I said this yesterday to her. I said, man, just being a man, I said, just being a man in general, I might just be mad just on the strength of it. Just to exert my dominance at the time to let them know who's in charge here. I'm sorry, I don't mean nothing by it, but I'm like, hey man, I gotta straighten this out. Y'all ever seen their parents? They say, hey, I don't know if this is true. This is what I heard. I don't know if this is true. The guy say, man, one time his mom just came in there and just spanked him, gave him a whooping. He said he didn't know why he was getting a whooping. And he said, Mom, I ain't do nothing. He said, well, I ain't whooped you in a while. I know you did something. I said, that can't be true. Now, I said, I didn't put my hands on nobody, but I'm just get a little upset. Let them know you there still. So they everything just stays moving in a good direction. Because I told why I said, when I'm raising kids, I'll be honest, man, I'm not looking for friends. I need some respect. I don't need you to be my friend. We can be friends later. Yeah, we can be friends later, but I want you to jump. When I say jump, I need you to move. That's just the way I felt, because that's the way my dad raised me, man. My dad said something, I'm out the way. I mean, my dad, boy, he'll pull up at the house. You hear his car pulling up. You straighten up. I said, oh, man, there go my dad. He here. All right, I got to stop. I got to stop what I'm doing. And then, if you was in trouble, you tell your mom, well, Mom, please don't tell him what I did. But those are the things, man. But my dad kept me on the straight and narrow. And so that's the way Christ is with us. He keeps us on the straight and narrow. But for the most part, when you think about the straight and narrow, you only stay on the straight and narrow once you've been in trouble. See, you get jacked up out there, man. The world sells you a dream and you be like, oh, man, this is the way I should be going. And then all of a sudden you messed up. And then you say, oh, man, well, let me get on the straight and narrow. That's the only time we usually get on the straight and narrow, when something is wrong. And then, see, now when things start to go better, we get broad again. But that straight and narrow keeps you in line. Man, I talk to them young folk, man. I say, hey, what's up, man? I'm just trying to stay out the way. I said, what does that mean? It said, stay out the way. I said, oh, Lord. I say, man, that must be a good go at it. I asked one young guy, I said, man, is it that hard to stay out the way? Man, man, it's hard out here. I'm thinking, like, you better change your friends. So I'm thinking, man, I say, you better change your friends, man. But, it's very interesting with that. But one of the things, man, the narrow path will never look enticing. I don't know when the narrow path ever looked enticing. I remember, boy, back in the day, man, if we walked into the club, weren't nobody there, it was a little too narrow in there. We not going in there. Yeah, we're not going in there, man. We want it broad. We need a bunch of broads up in there. You say, hey, when you go on them in there, you like, man, I want this thing crowded. But it doesn't look. See, small things don't look enticing. The only small thing that looks enticing is a diamond. See, we'll accept that small, but everything else, we're not going to accept that small. But, one of the people, they would always say, man, but you think about it, Jesse, dynamite comes in a small package, but it packs a big punch. See? But our thinking is usually the bigger, the better. More. And that's what, that's what the scripture in Christianity really has done to us Americans, man. It just tells us more. Take. But what are we giving? See, the narrow path. See, and if you're on the narrow path, man, you can't carry as much stuff either, man. When you're really on a real journey, you got to pack light. And that's why the scripture started saying, hey, Lord, give me this day my daily bread. But we want a windfall. We want to have that bag packed down. But sometimes, man, he just has it in a certain season where we just trusting and believing for this daily bread. Just meet my needs today, Heavenly Father. We'll get to that other path down the road. But look, this is let me just show you what the gate is, because Christ actually, he's said he's going to tell you exactly what it is. So if you don't believe me what the gate is, here we go right here. John 10, and we're going to do verse 7 through 10. And it says, therefore, Jesus said again, very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. So never believe these people when they talking about, oh man, well, there's many ways to Christ and all that other stuff. Don't believe that. You try that you want to, at the end, you'll know. But I'm telling you, don't do that. There's one way. I don't care how much you want to turn it into something else. There's only one way. And then this is what it says. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. Just think about that. Everyone that's come before sheep have been thieves and robbers. And Christ told you why, because he said, man, they'll run away when hard times come. He said, I'm never going to leave you nor forsake you. He said, I'm going to protect you. And so, man, one of the things that I thought about too is personally, a minister of God can be a thief and a robber. See, when the prophets came and they were doing certain things, the prophets were prophesying and certain things, but it was some good prophets also. But man, I said, I can be a thief and a robber too if I'm not doing what the Lord has called me to do. He'll put me in that same spot. If I'm saying, man, I need you to follow me, make sure you checking out and doing what I tell you to do, man. Don't worry about what he's saying to do. I need you to do this. So ministers and, these prophets that have come have been thieves and robbers because they're not leading you to the gate, which is Christ. That's where we have to lead them. It doesn't matter about whether they come back or not. You say, man, you need Jesus. So we got to tell them. Not about, man, I need you here every single Sunday so you can, fill a seat up. No. We need God. We need to follow him. But this is what verse 9 says. Once again, he says, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. All right. So this is the scripture that everyone is always, we kind of said this, and this is what the thief does. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. See, when you're on that broad path and that wide path and it's feeling good, man, and you think everything's going good, it's a setup. See, it's a setup. It feels really, really good at the time, man. Man, because feeding this flesh, man, feeding that flesh is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But man, beating this body into submission is even better. When you can beat this body into submission, you say, oh, you ain't going to control me. I control you. I'm going to tell you what to do. My wife and I, a guy my trainer gave us a diet. My wife is doing really well. I ain't been doing as great as she has. But getting that body to line up, boy, it fights you. And you know when it really fights? At nighttime. You just be sitting chilling and you hear snacks talking to you. You say, who said that? Go get you some Oreos. He said, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna listen this one time. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better next time. And then so man, for me, I go in there, I sneak in, I get a couple Oreos or something. And I said, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord. I shouldn't have went and did that. I should have beat this body into submission. I said, I gotta tell this body what to do. It ain't gonna tell me what to do. But it's a battle that you're going through, man, when you're trying to fight the enemy that's coming to steal and to kill and destroy you. He plays for keeps. See, it's not by accident. It's not by accident. I remember one time I don't know if I told this story, but I did. I had a dream one time. I said, I love going out kicking it. I love kicking it. I love going to the club. And so I remember one time I had a dream. I had a dream that I actually got shot and killed in the club. I don't think I ever told you this story, did I? So I had a dream that I actually got shot and killed in the club. That's how I said, man. So, I think that Friday came around. So that weekend, I didn't go. Because I had a bad dream. So I say, I'm not going to worry about that. So, man, that next weekend comes around. I said, nah, man, I got to go. He said, I got to go. I said, them streets are calling. I said, I got to go. I said, I got to go. And so, man, we go down. And so I'm with my buddies. And it was a certain dress code to get into this spot. A certain dress code. So, man, we dressed. We dressed. So I'm dressed a certain way. They would make you tuck your shirt in. So, man, I'm going to a club, got to have my shirt tucked in. I said, okay. So I got my shirt tucked in. Clothes ain't real baggy. And so he lets all my buddies in. I said, oh, man, you can't get in. I said, whoa. I said, dude, my shirt's tucked in. My clothes ain't baggy. I said, what's the problem? Yep, you can't get in tonight. I said, oh, man. So my buddies, they go up in there. I said, all right, well, I go on there. Just go to the house. I said, y'all just have fun because I already paid their money. I ain't need your money back. So I said, y'all just go on in. Y'all go have fun. I just go home. Next morning, I cut the news on. Somebody shot the club up. I said, man, that's awfully weird. That for some reason I couldn't get in, but some tragic stuff happened that night. And I'm not saying I would have got shot. I don't know, but I had a dream. And then all of a sudden, I didn't get in. So I said, all right, Lord, well, I'll accept that. I'll accept that. And so the Lord put me on that narrow path that night, but it got broad again. It did. It got broad after that. But I just knew for some reason the Lord was always ordering and ordaining my footsteps as I walked this path out. So I can never say that, man, God ain't working no more. It might not feel like it sometimes that God isn't working. But man, one of the songs say, even when you don't see it, he's working. And these things, man, that narrow path doesn't feel good at the time because it's very lonely. When you start to change your path up, man, things don't work out and people don't agree with what you're doing. They tell you that you're taking this too serious. Oh, man, you ain't got to do all that, man. You got time, man. Just take the time, Oh, man, they too serious about that, man. Oh, I gotta go to such and such, man. I gotta go to church tonight and this and that. A guy actually told me, man, he said he was dating a girl and he said he couldn't get with her. He said it was a Wednesday night. He said, all right. He said, hey, I'll call you later on. He said, because I got to go to church. She was like, oh, okay, give me a call. So he said he called her the next day. And she said, I don't think this is going to work out between us. And he said, well, what happened? He said, you chose church over me. And he said, Jesse, it shocked me. He said, I thought she was going to be excited that I was a church-going man. He said, you chose church over me. We were supposed to hang out, but you went to church instead. I said, well, that wasn't the one for you. That's an easy decision to make. But man, we just think about those things. But let me just go on and go through these real quick. Let me go on. Things are growing so I can wrap this up. I'm time really getting away from me now. But all right, let me just do this. All right, things are growing. We must filter our lives through Christ. If you look at a filtration system, it's kind of wide. It seems kind of wide at first, but once it goes down the tube, it gets a little tighter. See, it might be wide. See, you're very wide right now on what you're doing, but if you're going to filter it through Christ, he's the narrow gate that they're talking about. So if you're going to push something through a narrow gate, you're going to have to get a little smaller and a little narrower in your life and your walk. We ordered a fridge for our house. The front door was too narrow. We had to take it through the back. So some things might not fit a certain way until you get rid of some things in your life so they can fit the right way. But when you start to filter them through the things of God, it will make it a lot more pure. It's going to make it pure when you filter it through the things of God, okay? All right, then the last one. A God-centered life gets real narrow. You're not going to have time to do all the things that you want to do, and God's going to start challenging you on some of the things that you do. He's going to challenge you to push you. All right, man, are you going to push through or are you going to give up? Are you going to walk this out or are you going to give up? All right? But when you put God at the center of your life, it's going to get real tight at times. Because we talked about being refined by that fire. When we go over in the book of Revelation, we're refining it by the fire. We're refined by the fire. He's refining you so that you won't be moved or shook by what happens or what doesn't happen in your life. You say, all right, he's ordaining my footsteps, so I know that I'm in perfectly position on this path that I'm on. Okay. So just think about that as we walk this out. But man, once you truly get on this narrow path, it becomes very easy. So really the choice is up to us. See, that's what's so beautiful about God. We get to pick where we want to go. You don't have to be here today. You chose to be here. You picked to come here. And so you get a chance and opportunity to pick what you want to get out of this life. God isn't making you do this. And that's why sometimes, and I don't know, this new school stuff, it is getting weird. But one of the things I know when it was old school, oh, well, we used to do it this way. We had to do it that way. I said, well, if y'all did it correctly, everyone would be saved. Everyone would be saved. If the way they were doing it in the old days, everyone would be saved. Nobody would be lost. So we have to get on the narrow path by ourselves. And what Vince was saying is being led by the Spirit. It's the Spirit that's going to lead and guide you. It's the Spirit that's going to renew you. It's the Spirit that's going to keep you going in this life. And that's a narrow path to be on.